Trump's economics advisor, Larry Kudlow, spoke at the RNC. This is a guy who has infamously been wrong about everything. Go back and look at the things he said. Jesus Christ, the things he said before the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. He was acting like there wasn't even going to be a downturn. And we had the Great Recession. Unbelievable how wrong he's been about so much, but this guy has power. So anyway, here are some of the things he said in his speech, then I'll dissect it.
Our economic health is coming back. With emergency spending and tax cuts, Americans are going back to work. There's a housing boom, there's an auto boom, a manufacturing boom, a consumer spending boom. Stocks are in record territory. A V-shaped recovery is pointing to better than 20% growth in the second half of this year. Now, looking ahead, more tax cuts and regulatory rollback will be in store. Payroll tax cuts for higher wages, income tax cuts for the middle class, capital gains tax cuts for investment, productivity, and jobs. Much more regulatory relief for small businesses. In economic terms, folks, this is no time for a $4 trillion tax hike. Coming out of the deep pandemic, who in their right mind would pick the pockets of taxpayers and drain money from their wallets and purses? Look, our economic choice is very clear. Do you want economic health, prosperity, opportunity, and optimism? Or do you want to turn back to the dark days of stagnation, recession, and pessimism?
That's what we have right now. Stagnation, pessimism, dark days. It's amazing. Randy said something on Twitter that I thought was hilarious. He was like, why does it always seem like they're talking and they're skipping a chapter? It's like they talk, we had built the best economy the world has ever seen, and we'll do it again. Wait, so you admit you have to do it again, which means you're admitting right now it's not good. Why are you not talking about that part? You don't get a mulligan for COVID. That's not the way this works. Imagine FDR saying, man, listen, before the Great Depression, dog, it was the Roaring 20s. It was the Roaring 20s. We had such a great economy. Yeah, but now we don't. Get to work, bitch. Like what? It's amazing. The mental gymnastics. So if you just ignore what's happening now and you look at what happened before and just think about what might happen in the future, it might get better in the future and it was good before. Vote for me, Trump 2020. Oh my God. Oh my God, you're so embarrassing. Oh my God. Now, earlier on, he was trying to make the case that it's no big deal or anything, bro, but like, we're in an economic boom. Thank you. Oh, are we? 29 million adults report not having enough food to eat. 15 million renters are behind on rent payments. Trump's $300 unemployment insurance benefit will only last about 3 weeks. Poverty rates to rise above Great Recession levels without more stimulus. Guys, really the only thing he could point to make this argument is the stock market. And guess what? The stock market is booming simply because it has effectively been fully socialized. That's what it is. When you had the CARES Act, trillions of dollars going to corporations and the wealthy, and you had the Federal Reserve doing endless quantitative easing, $1 trillion a day. The Federal Reserve basically was like, we will spend whatever the hell it takes to shore up the marketplace. That means they fully socialized it. That means it can't fail. Now, compare that approach, how they treat the market, how they treat the corporations, with how they treat you. Did they come to you and say, no matter what, we're not going to let you suffer? If we got to spend $1,000 a day for each American in stimulus, we'll do it. They didn't say that. They said it for the market. They said it for the corporations. They didn't say it for you. They did not say it for you. All the bailouts just happened to be top down. It was the same thing with the Great Recession. Oh, well, what are we going to do? We got to bail them out, so just give all the money to the people who messed everything up on Wall Street. If you're going to bail people out, bail out the homeowners. Bail out the homeowners, the people who need it from the bottom up. No, never bottom up. Why? Because you don't bribe the politicians. The corporations do. So, listen, the economy is a joke right now. That's obvious. You didn't need me to tell you this. 80% of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck before COVID. 80%. Now the real unemployment rate is about 20%. People with jobs are taking pay cuts. I don't need to explain to you that this thing is going to implode. We have anywhere between 500,000 and 1 million homeless people in America. There's some predictions that say we could have 28 million soon. And he's out there bragging. Why? Because the stock market is still doing well simply because it's been fully socialized. I mean, it's just everything he says is misleading. It's kind of amazing. Now, notice when he talks about what we're going to do from here, don't worry, guys, they got it under control. Does he say, we're going to do Medicare for all because we have a pandemic? So you got to give people health care. It's a pandemic and we don't have everybody covered. What are we, crazy? He doesn't say that. Does he say, I got it, universal basic income? He doesn't say that. They say, I got it, we'll copy other developed countries, we'll temporarily nationalize wages until COVID is over. He doesn't say that. What does he say? We're going to do tax cuts. You did tax cuts in 2017, and you pretended like it was for the middle class when 83% of the benefits went to the rich. So you want to do more tax cuts? What kind of tax cuts you want to do? We're going to do capital gains tax cuts and a payroll tax cut. Okay, payroll tax cut is just a stealth attempt to screw Social Security, destroy Social Security. And a capital gains tax cut is, the capital gains tax is what you pay on money you make through investments. That would only apply to the wealthy. And you want to do a capital gains tax cut? Guys, capital gains tax, this is why Mitt Romney, when he made like $30 million in 1 year, this is back when he was running for president in 2012, he made like $30 million in 1 year, he only paid like 14% taxes on it. Now, if he worked and made $30 million, he would have been taxed at like 40% on that money. Instead, he was taxed at 14%. Why? Because apparently our tax code treats money that you make through gambling in the stock market, they tax you at a lower rate for that, and they tax you at a higher rate for actual work. Now, I'm going to speak your language here for a minute, Larry Kudlow. Doesn't that seem like it's incentivizing people not to actually work? That if anybody has the ability, has the money, has enough funds, like what do you mean? I'll sit on my couch all day and I'll invest. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not actually going to work. I'm not actually going to produce something. I'm going to push numbers around on a computer screen and gamble for a living in the stock market. Why should the capital gains tax rate be lower than the income tax rate when you actually have to work to pay an income tax? And he's saying we're going to cut the capital gains tax even. Are you insane? If there were ever taxes to raise, it would be the top marginal tax rate, and it would be the capital gains rate, and it would be the corporate tax rate, which leads to my final point. He does this fear-mongering thing about Biden. They're going to raise $4 trillion in taxes. Oh my God. Except, go look at Biden's plan. He wants to raise the corporate tax from 21%, that's what it is now, nominally, to 28%. That's where he wants to raise the taxes. Other than that, raise it a little bit on people who make over $400,000 a year. And you're fear-mongering about that? Are you insane? That's exactly what we need, and those ideas are wildly popular. Guys, the nominal corporate tax was 35% prior to Trump. He cut it to 21. Biden's not even saying bring it back to 35. Biden's saying 28. And they're still bitching and lying and acting like, oh, he's just going to raise taxes. There's this new talking point going around. Biden wants to raise taxes on 82% of Americans. Utter nonsense, completely made up. The problem with Biden, if anything, is the opposite, where he keeps raising that number too much. He says nobody's going to have a tax increase making under $400,000. Originally with Obama, he said 100, then it became 250, now it's 400. What's it going to be next, 1 million? But it doesn't matter, guys, it doesn't matter, because no matter what they say, no matter what the Democrats are in favor of, idiots like Larry Kudlow will go out there and lie. So they want to raise taxes on regular people, be afraid. As he calls for 87 new tax cuts in the middle of a pandemic and a depression, as if that'll do anything to help. The reality is, Larry Kudlow only cares about these tax cuts because he and his buddies are very wealthy. And he's looking for any excuse to give them more money and more power. It's always been a ruse. Trickle-down economics has always been a ruse. Art Laffer has always been a joke. It's nothing but a scam to convince you that there are high-minded, intelligent economic reasons in order to give my friends all the money on the planet. I mean, that's what's going on here. Obviously, and no human being can look at the results of trickle-down economics. It's been tried so many times previously and say, oh, this time it'll work. This time it won't blow a giant hole in the deficit. This time it won't lead to a boom-bust cycle. Of course it will. So I think, at this point, I think he even knows that he's full of it. And he's just doing his job as corporate America's cheerleader and PR agent. Unbelievable. This guy's still steering the ship. See, this is how we know Trump is a total fraud. He did the whole, fake outsider thing in 2016. You can't say you're an outsider and then hire people like Steve Mnuchin and Gary Cohn and Larry Kudlow. These are ultimate insiders. You can't say you're an outsider and then hire people like John Bolton and Mike Pompeo, these massive neocons. So in other words, you say you're an outsider while you continue the military-industrial complex and while you continued Wall Street stranglehold on our government. Total joke.